share with your friends, and I will see you next time.
Let's do the end again.
Do-
Don't forget to comment all that stuff.
Oh, I'm about to say I gotta do the whole thing over again.
I'm gonna reframe and then you're gonna do that again.
Okay, I was like, oh my gosh. Not today. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Housewives News Network. No commentary, just the stories. I'm your host, Taylor J. You can find me on social media, and you can check that out at the bottom of the screen. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and like and comment as well. And also, don't forget to share. So you have to forgive me. We've been gone for a few weeks. You know, it's summertime, there's vacations and a lot of things going on, but back to the grind, back to get into these recaps. So this week it's all about Real Housewives of Atlanta season 15, episode 14, which is titled appropriately Wreck-It Ralph, because Ralph is showing his behind, shall we say. But we're going to get to Drew and Ralph's story toward the end of this recap and kind of start on a lighter note and give a congratulations to Sanya Richards Ross and her husband, for they are expecting another baby. And as we know from their first season, that her husband was really wanting to have another kid, and Sanya wasn't so sure about it. And at the end of the season, she decided to get off of her birth control and try. And so she made a cute announcement first to him. She put the pregnancy test in a notebook. He saw it in there. And then they made these sweatshirts for their family. So they were supposed to be standing side by side with their backs turned, saying we're pregnant, but instead it was the opposite way. So that was kind of a funny moment there, but her family was very excited. And then also they tried to do a surprise with the girls by taking a group shot at this mental wellness retreat that they did. Sanya opens up her jacket and she has "I'm pregnant" on the shirt, but no one looked at the picture after they took it. So she was trying to get people to like look back at the picture. Nobody was paying attention, and then eventually they got it. So her announcements kind of fell a little flat, but nevertheless, we are very excited for them. But also, speaking of baby news, Kenya has been talking about how she wants to get pregnant again. As we know, she has her one daughter, Brooklyn, by her soon-to-be ex-husband, and she also has some embryos from when she went through IVF, and she wants to use those embryos to have another baby. Of course, people are kind of skeptical about that because she and Mark are not in the best situation. She claims that he hasn't even seen Brooklyn in 2 years. So, you know, a lot of her castmates and fans are wondering too, why would you want to have another baby with Mark in particular? But I guess, you know, she has the embryos, she just wants to use them. So we'll see if that actually happens. So the next thing that was very interesting about this episode, we saw Cynthia. She came back again. She was also in the previous episode. And the conversation came up about Sheree's birthday. So she had a birthday dinner and she invited some of the girls, but not all of them. So Cynthia, Marlo, and Sanya were all present. And Sanya and Marlo shared with Kenya, who then shared with Candy and Shamia, that Martell, Sheree's man right now, or supposed to be, did not pay for her birthday dinner for everyone, and I guess asked everyone to cash app. And this became like a huge topic, to the point now that Sheree and Sanya are kind of fighting with each other off camera. If you watch the after show, which is on Peacock, they got into a whole argument about how he did not pay this bill and how they were talking about it. And this is discourse that we see on social media anyway. People are always doing these like skits and stuff about like who should be paying for a bill or splitting a bill with a group of people. It was just very whack and a waste of our time, I would say, but entertaining. So Sheree and Sanya, they have an issue with that. And then it kind of turns into Candy feeling a way that she wasn't invited to Sheree's birthday dinner. And so Sheree and Cynthia say that the reason why is because Candy's been so busy. She hasn't been showing up for much. You know, when they went on their trip to Portugal, Candy left early because she had work. Drew had that brunch at her house, and Candy had to leave early for that as well. And there's just been some things that she hasn't been able to come to because she has a lot going on. So, you know, they felt, well, if we invited you, you weren't going to show up anyway, so that's why we didn't. Kandi said she would have showed up. I guess she felt slighted about it. So maybe that'll help her to kind of make a change in prioritizing her schedule and spending time with her friends, because that's kind of been a common theme, even with her children and with her husband Todd, that her time, is really taken up by work and she's not as present as she could be. Sheree did end up apologizing about that, about not inviting Kandi, and it seemed like it got all smoothed over. All right, so the big topic of this episode, I have a lot of notes about this. This is Drew and Ralph. So as we know, right now they're in the process of getting a divorce, and it's a bit of a nasty divorce. So when it was announced that they were separating, the story goes that they were trying to race each other to the courthouse so that one would file the papers before the other. And seeing that whole tit for tat situation in this episode that they had explains a lot and why they probably act the way that they do. So I'm kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but they hosted a mental health event in honor of Drew's sister, Allison, who was in a psychiatric hospital for 19 days during COVID because, the lockdown and just other things that she was dealing with. She really needed some professional help for her mental state. And so they wanted to host this retreat where they invited everyone to come. They did some exercising, some meditating. They did like the Drop It with Drew thing. They had a lunch. It was a really nice event. And it was very helpful to Kandi, which she shared. She really needed it because she had a lot going on in her life at the time. So everyone starts arriving to this event. And Drew, I guess, goes to hug Ross, and Ralph is right behind Ross. And because she hugged Ross first and not him, then Ralph went and hugged everyone in the room except for Drew, which was very weird, very tit for tatty. And everyone else noticed it. So that kind of brought some tension into the situation. But also earlier in the episode, Drew and Ralph had a date night. And they just talked about how, they're trying to come together. They were doing couples therapy, but Ralph hasn't been showing up for it because he feels like he doesn't need it. He feels like the therapist is not helpful because the therapist is telling him what to do and what he needs to change. So it sounds like accountability is probably a tough thing for Ralph. But then also in the meantime, Drew's doing her music again, and she's been invited to be in a movie, Todd's movie. And she's talking about how she's going to be a little busier with that, and she might need help with the kids because she'll be away from 10 days. And Ralph is saying, he doesn't have time to help with the kids because he's busy and he's traveling and he has things going on. So it's like he's not really trying to support her in what she's doing. So that turned into an argument, which then again kind of separated them from each other. She said that Ralph eventually moved out of the bedroom, and that he still wasn't showing up to their counseling sessions. So toward the end of the episode, Drew ends up having a session with Dr. Ken by herself. And that's where it came out, where she was just saying that she really believes that their marriage is in trouble, and she just doesn't know where it's going to go from there because Ralph is not really trying to do the work or really be involved like she would like for him to be. And of course, we know how things end because they're getting divorced now, but it's really starting to show in the episodes the breaking apart of their marriage, which is very unfortunate to see because they have young children and things of that nature. But I mean, we've watched the previous seasons with Drew and Ralph, and it's been trouble in paradise with them for a while. So it doesn't necessarily seem like it's going to get any better. They also talked about this lawsuit too with the lady who wanted to be their chef. And it turned out that they didn't want her to be the chef because she brought over some sample plates and there was hair in the food. And now they tried to then see if she could be a nanny, but she wasn't connecting or showing up with the kids. But she still wanted money. They didn't pay her, and now they're suing her, or she's suing Drew and Ralph for $1,000. But they ended up winning that lawsuit in the end. So that came up as well. All in all, I would say that this was a pretty good episode. I think that it had enough of emotion in it. It had drama, of course, but it also had some light moments. It was nice to have Cynthia back. Her confessionals are great. She is getting reactivated, and hopefully that means that she's going to join the cast again soon. Really enjoyed seeing her. The reunion already filmed, as you might have heard, so that's going to be coming up in a few weeks. So we're almost toward the end of the season here, season 15. There is a new interview with Carlos King that dropped today with Kenya Moore. Nene did one a couple weeks ago, and so that I will be watching, and I will have some updates on my thoughts on that on TikTok. So follow me there. So don't forget to follow me on social media. That's going to be at the bottom of the screen once again. And then subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode from the Housewives News Network. And also be sure to follow me on TikTok too. The things that you might not necessarily hear on the recaps or other things that happen during the week, I'll give some updates there on things that are happening in the Housewives world because there's always a lot going on. And I'll see you next time.